Hi, I'm Todd Jones, host of the podcast Pressbox Access. Here's a clip from my interview with Christine Brennan. Christine talks about her experiences as a pioneer, one of the first women in sports writing. But as an intern in 1980, the Herald sent you to an NFL locker room, right? You went to the Vikings, Dolphins preseason game, and so they send you in there to an NFL locker room. You're probably, 20 years old. What was that? What was that like in 1980 for you to all of a sudden be challenging the status quo?
It was, I was an intern. I was in between undergrad and master's at Northwestern. And so the sports editor of the Miami Herald, Paul Anger, who was instrumental in so much of the opportunities I had and whatever success I've been able to achieve, Paul pulled me aside a few days before. These were exhibition games. So this is the old Orange Bowl, and it's the Miami Dolphins against the Minnesota Vikings, as you said. And I'm going to do a feature on, just a sidebar, on the Vikings after this preseason game. So I'm part of the Miami Herald's team covering that game. There's probably 6, 7, 8 of us. Like Larry Dorman was on the beat at the time covering the Dolphins. And anyway, so Paul pulls me in and says, "We're gonna send you to. You're gonna do a Viking sidebar, which means you're gonna go in the locker room. We've talked to the Vikings people. They know you're coming in there. They've never had a woman in the locker room before, but they are going to let you in." And, there was something about it. I was like, I'm ready for this. I don't know where my confidence came from. Maybe I'm obviously now looking back, my parents and the way I was raised and teachers and others in my life that helped me, have this sense that I wanted this and nothing was going to stop me. And again, being tall certainly helped. I was always taken seriously. No one really was patting me on the head, you little thing. And I think that certainly helped a lot. But so game's over, and in I go into that door at the Orange Bowl, which I ended up being in many times after that. And I walk in, and first is the coach, as you know, Todd. Well, it's the coach, and so that's Bud Grant. I mean, my goodness, the legendary Bud Grant. And yes, I
Chiseled
am
out of
22.
rock. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm 22 years old, and all those Super Bowls that he coached in. I mean, I've watched every football game on television, and I could recite everything about Bud Grant.
So what did
And
Bud
there I
think when
am.
you walked up?
So he was. He had been told as well. Obviously, I got to give credit to Paul at the Miami Herald for making sure that the word got out, so that they at least knew about it. Although what was to come was kind of interesting, but there's a few of us asking questions, and so I'm just with a group. But gradually they all peel off, and I have a question specifically to ask him, a couple questions. We all have done that occasionally. And I also, by the way, I was wearing a skirt, very, probably below my knee. I was like conservatively dressed, but I thought I want to make it clear that if anyone's even just glancing around, there's a woman in here. I had such respect for the fact that I was doing this and for their privacy, the players. And the understanding that this is the workplace, and it's a strange workplace, but it is the workplace for reporters, so that's why you have equal access to it. Anyway, and so I looked at Bud Grant, and he goes, "You're going in there," and I said, "I am." Now, there are coaches, as you know, around that time who would stop women. Sam
Oh,
Wyche,
yeah. I covered Sam. Yeah. Yeah.
his eternal shame. He deserves it. Would not let Denise Tom in the locker room. There were many who were not at all understanding of the idea of equal access and equality for women. So that was not a good time for a lot
Yeah. And it
of
went
these
on all
guys.
through the 1980s. I mean,
Sure, and
so
even you could probably find a college coach right now who doesn't believe a woman should be in the locker room.
yeah.
Which again, shame on them. Thankfully, the laws and the rules have changed, and the commissioners made the decisions and what have you. But Bud Grant, to his great credit, said, "All right, there you go. How about that?
And I,
How about that? This is a guy born in, I think Bud Grant was born in the 20s probably,
probably 16,
and
20.
yeah, exactly. So anyway, in I go, and I would love to have a camera video of me and my face, and just what I was doing. I'm sure I was fine, but inside, my heart was starting to race a little bit, because what I walked into, there were players in all kinds of stages of undress. There were some players still in uniform. There were some who were naked or wearing towels, and everything in between. Now, my goal, and I knew this, was to just beeline to a few lockers and get a couple quotes and get out of there. And of course, the idea, I'm sure it's hard, I can't believe we still have to talk about this, but for those listening who think this is somehow exciting or sexy, it's the complete antithesis of that, as you know, Todd. And if you were in a woman's locker room, you'd feel the exact same way. You've got a job to do. You're going to get these quotes and get out of there. But for a preseason game, they take there's no names above the lockers.
Right, so you don't know who's who.
And right, so I got my flip card because I knew I needed to be prepared. I've prepared my whole life for these moments, and so I've got the names and the numbers. So if I need to find out where he is, Tommy Kramer, I would know who he was. He was the quarterback at the time, but. You've got, number 88. Okay, there he is. And I can quickly look if I need, these 4 or 5 guys I wanted to talk to. Well, they're now starting to take off their jerseys. So now you don't have numbers, and you don't have any numbers above the lockers like you normally would in a regular season. And I'm stuck because I cannot look around. I cannot. My eyes cannot wander. I knew this. I knew all this at 22. So out of the blue walks up this player. And it is Tom Hannon, a safety for the Vikings. And he looks at me and he says, "Who do you need?" How about that? Who do you need?
There's always guys that will be helpful, right?
Well, and this is extraordinary. I'm the first woman to ever be in the Vikings locker room. It's my first time ever being in a men's locker room. I'm, of course, trying to be as professional as possible. And he senses this. And by the way, I'm fine. I'm not emotional at all. I'm just going to see how I can do my job. And who do you need? And I said a couple names. And I then noticed Tommy Kramer was still there. And I could see him. And then I said, and you, because he had 2 interceptions that day. And I wanted to interview him. So I talked to him. And then I walked over to Kramer, talked to him. Fine, totally fine. There was one other player I needed to speak with, and he, unfortunately, Todd, wanted to stand there buck naked. And so he walks up to me, and I walk up to him. I mean, we both kind of, walk towards each other because I think he sensed that I wanted to talk to him, and he just had to be naked. Now, the good news is that I, just by chance, carried an 8x11 notebook that day. And I learned very
Good to hide
quickly
views.
that an 8x11 notebook, especially when with heels, I'm probably 6'1", that 8x11.5 notebook was perfectly positioned. And got the interview and got out of there. I will also say that before this, I went up, I went in the locker room. I actually called back home. I got my mom and dad, of course, like I'm sure.
Yeah, I was wondering what your dad was thinking.
Mom's on one line, dad's on the other, and I told them I was going to be going into the men's locker room for the first time, and I said, "Dad, do you have any advice for me?" And he said, "Honey, keep eye contact at all times."
Father knows best.
That's right. So that's been that's exactly what I did.
Well,
saw the whites of their eyes.